Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is Turkey and Turkey's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. People often misread his name and then mispronounce it. His last name is pronounced Erdogan. The G has an accent on it, and in Turkish, it's pronounced as a W. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is in full fighting mode. He's fighting a battle for recognition and significance in the international arena. He's a man who loves the battle, and he is, as always, fighting to win. Erdogan is working hard to turn himself into a relevant player on the international stage. Once that happens, he reckons it will translate into important political currency at home. Erdogan is convinced that he has what it takes to transform himself into a world leader. He wants to sow his oats mediating not one world conflict, but two simultaneously. The first conflict is Syria, and the second is Iran and the United States. Ibrahim Kalin is the spokesman for the Turkish president. Following a meeting of the Turkish cabinet, Kalin issued a statement telling the world that Turkey was going to host a trilateral meeting with Russia, Iran, and of course Turkey. The meeting, according to Kalin, will mainly be on Idlib and other parts of Syria, on the general security situation, transition process, constitutional commission, and resettlement. The spokesperson explained that following the trilateral meeting, there would be another summit about Syria attended by Russia, Germany, and France. He said that the plan for this meeting is a byproduct of the G20 meeting that took place at the end of June. The Syria announcement came on the heels of another Erdogan announcement, this one made after the G20 meeting. Erdogan dug in at the G20 meeting. While there, Turkey's president offered to mediate the conflict between the United States and Iran. He said that he wanted to help ease the tensions that continued to ratchet up between the two countries. This proposal, surprising as it may seem, was actually a very good idea. Erdogan is perfectly positioned to mediate this conflict. He is distrusted by both parties, and yet he also has close relations with both parties. Erdogan shares strategic economic objectives with both the United States and Iran. That is not to say that it'll be easy. Before he can even get started on engaging these two enemies, Erdogan will have some serious minefields on his own to navigate. The United States is calling on NATO to expel Turkey because they are now in possession of the prime prized Russian S-400 surface-to-air missile. Turkey signed and sealed a deal with Russia to get the missiles, and the first batch of brand new weapons have already arrived and been delivered on Turkish soil. Asked about the S-400s, spokesman Kalin said, and I'm quoting here, "This is not a defense system that would pose a threat or danger to our current security system, especially within the NATO system." Why? Because he said, and I'm continuing the quote, "First of all, it is a defense system, not an attack system against another country. Therefore, it is not a threat to another country." The United States disagrees. It's not about defense. It's about weapons sales and technology. The United States is upset over Turkey's possession of the S-400 because it signals a fracture in the NATO defense system. Turkey is embracing Russia. The United States is upset because this Russian system is not a part of the NATO mechanism. More importantly, in buying arms from Russia, Turkey is signaling to the United States that they have lost a valued customer. And as a valued customer, Turkey received the highly advanced U.S. fighter jets. Information about those jets, secret information, will now be put into the hands of the Russians. The new technology of the S-400 can easily be tweaked to be more effective against U.S. technology, and that tweak can impact U.S. military effectiveness across the globe. Erdogan is a thug and a tyrant, but he is no fool. Erdogan knows full well what he's doing. The president of Turkey must be watched carefully, all eyes upon him. Erdogan is a fighter, and this is just the beginning of his quest. Surprise? Well, no, not really. Iran has announced that they have begun working on the new infrastructure to build advanced centrifuges, which will enrich uranium at higher levels. Levels so high that they are 4 times above the level agreed to in the famous nuke deal. The Iranian enrichment program is taking place in Iran's nuclear plant located in Natanz. I have been telling you about this for a long time, ever since immediately, actually, after the signing of the now famous or infamous nuke deal in the spring of 2015. That's over 4 years ago. Already, I've been talking about this issue. Back in June, the enriched uranium announcement was so important that Iran's supreme leader chose to deliver it himself. The Ayatollah Ali Khamenei also took that opportunity to announce that Iran has already informed the International Atomic Energy Agency that they are creating the centrifuge center at Natanz. Not that anyone would doubt the supreme leader. Ali Akbar Salehi, the director of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, confirmed Iran's intention. Salehi asserted that Iran's nuclear activities were all within the framework of the 2015 nuke deal. He was lying. The announcement of the change to the framework of the agreement is, in and of itself, a violation of the agreement. Salehi explained that the nuclear work Iran is now undertaking is intended to create infrastructure Iran needs to produce electricity. He explained that at the Natanz plant, Iran was merely upgrading their nuclear technology for the purpose of making electricity, which is under the agreement permitted. The subtext of the announcements and the real importance behind the decisions to both upgrade and announce the upgrade is that this is how Iran chose to react to the decision by the United States to pull out of the famous nuke deal with the P5+1, the 5 permanent, that's what the P stands for, members of the Security Council of the United Nations, plus Germany, the 1. When the United States pulled out of the deal, there was great suspicion that the move would put the entire deal at risk. And here we have it. Europeans want to save the deal. Iran, the master of diplomatic manipulation, is using this period of agreement limbo to push Europe for more and to expand their terms of the deal. Ramping up their nuclear development is a fulcrum for increasing the proverbial heat in negotiations with Europe and forcing Europe to defend them, even protect them from the ire of the United States and U.S. sanctions against Iran. Iran is worried about the impact of the sanctions. Enlisting the aid of the remaining permanent members of the Security Council and Germany is a very effective device in countering increased pressure from the United States to renew and increase sanctions. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani put it very bluntly when he said, and I'm quoting here, "In an hour and a day, Iran could return to more advanced nuclear level than at the beginning of the negotiations," unquote. The world was warned. We knew, even if we did not want to believe what Iran was doing. They told us as early as August 22nd, 2017. Salehi appeared on Iranian state television and said, quote, "If we make the determination, we are able to resume 20% enrichment in at most 5 days." 2 months later, on October 30th, he said, quote again, "We can produce 20% enriched uranium at Fordow in 4 days, but we don't want the nuclear deal to collapse," unquote. And look what's happening today. Iran is kicking up their nuclear program. Iranian leadership is no longer keeping it a secret. Israel's April unveiling of its nuclear desires is serving as a backdrop of Iran's surge forward in uranium development, but it is not the cause. When you read the agreement itself, you understand that the underlying objective behind the agreement is clearly to set Iran up as a country with nuclear technology. Iran's ultimate goal in the signing of the deal, the nuke deal, was to allow them to enrich uranium in an above-board manner. The United States is doing its best to stop that from happening. Iran is trying even harder to get back on track. This time around, they want to increase their nuclear capability and do it with a blessing of the world. This is the real reason for the current spate of announcements. Coming up next, points of view. Here's what some important voices have been talking about. Both columns are from the New York Post. Some have asked why I rely on the New York Post so often. The easy answer is the Post's columns and editorials deal with the material that is perfect for this show. The second is that they are one of only a few newspapers and websites that do not apologize for supporting Israel, just like me. And that is something that I stand behind and applaud. First up is a column by Benny Avni. Avni is a regular columnist for the Post. He writes about whatever he wants, and most of the time it is exactly the kinds of things that we speak about and that I write about also. This column was published online on July 4th and in print July 5th. It's entitled The Palestinians' Eternal No. Avni explains just how off-kilter the PA leadership is. Some of this will be familiar because I wrote about it and spoke about it too. This is how Avni begins. 30 uniformed men surrounded Ashraf Ghanem's home in Hebron, the West Bank, last weekend. He managed somehow to escape and now, in hiding, tell the Jerusalem Post he's afraid for his life. Sounds like a scene from Fauda, the spectacularly popular Israeli series on Netflix, depicting the realities of terror-ridden life in the Palestinian territories. But what happened to Ghanem was all too real. The men who arrested Ghanem, an owner of the Hebron Furniture Company, were members of the Palestinian Authority's security forces. His crime? Ghanem was part of the 13-member Palestinian delegation to last week's economic workshop in Bahrain, aimed at creating jobs and opportunities for Palestinians. The Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, boycotted the conference, and his PA vowed to punish anyone going to Bahrain. Another businessman, Salah Abu Mayala, was arrested and later released under U.S. pressure. Palestinian media, meanwhile, daily trash the delegation's leader, Ashraf Jabari, as a collaborator with Israel and therefore a traitor. Now Avni continues by quoting David Harris, leader of the American Jewish Committee, the AJC. Harris's name and face is probably familiar to most viewers because he's a regular guest on JBS. Avni writes, recounting a recent conversation with an unnamed Arab leader, David Harris of the American Jewish Congress. I have to interrupt here. I'm interrupting myself because it's actually a mistake. I don't know where the fact checkers were in this. The mistake is often made, but Harris is at the American Jewish Committee, not Congress. Getting back to the column, David Harris noted that the leader didn't even mention the Palestinians. They're no longer a priority. The unnamed leader told Harris, no matter what's on the peace table, their reply is always no. We want strategic and economic ties with Israel and don't want to be held back by the Palestinians. Regrettably, many of the peoples of the Arab world have yet to join such leaders in overcoming decades of anti-Israel, anti-Semitic animus. But the Palestinian leadership can no longer take solace in those sentiments. Their own failures are increasingly under the regional spotlight, and at home as well. While Abbas cried treachery and trashed the Bahrain participants, Palestinian social media was more interested in other developments. The PA's top brass gave itself a 20% salary hike, even while blaming America for cuts to social services and salaries for everyone else. Avni concludes, for decades, it has been an article of faith. Palestinian leaders should be given unconditional support to promote the two-state solution, a misnamed formula, as one state already exists, thrives and hardly needs outside help. The Bahrain economy first approach may or may not succeed, but the conference showed that the main stumbling block creating a Palestinian state is none other than Palestinian leaders. Agreed. Second up, as I said, is another column from the New York Post. This column is written by Michael Goodwin. He writes from Israel this time, actually from Jerusalem. It was dated July 2nd online and July 3rd in print. The piece is entitled, Abbas Blows It, in print. Online, the title has much more space to expand and is more complete. It reads, Mahmoud Abbas blows his chance at achieving peace in the Middle East. This is how Goodwin begins. Dateline Jerusalem. The contrast is striking. President Trump, after threatening to obliterate North Korea, develops a friendship with Kim Jong-un, exchanges warm personal letters, and makes history by stepping inside North Korea. Meanwhile, Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas refuses even to talk with the Trump administration and publicly curses the president, Jared Kushner, and American ambassador David Friedman. Not surprisingly, the difference in consequences is also striking. While the United States and North Korea are moving closer to normalization and a possible deal on nuclear arms, the U.S. is cutting aid to the Palestinians and taking major steps to strengthen Israel's hand. The latest example is Trump's decision to recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights just months after he moved our embassy to Jerusalem. The two situations are not exactly comparable, but unlike the shrewd North Korean dictator, Abbas is bungling any chance to gain advantages for the Palestinians and their own hope for sovereignty. In poker terms, he is playing a bad hand badly. Goodwin now explains the ramifications and the damage of Abbas's actions, and just as importantly, his non-action, his inaction. He writes, by refusing to talk to America and negotiate with Israel, Abbas has turned back the clock on any possibility for Palestinian statehood. 20 years ago, after the terrorist Yasser Arafat rejected a U.S. brokered offer at Camp David that would have created a fully separate nation, no such offer is even remotely being considered. Goodwin now concludes, sadly, the claim is predictable. Arafat himself argued in the failed Camp David talks that there never were Jewish temples on the Temple Mount and that the glorious Western Wall is a Muslim creation. Arafat is long gone, but his ghost lives on in Abbas. Now, in the 15th year of a 4-year term, the Palestinian president spews anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that echo his PhD thesis that the Holocaust was overstated and that Jews have no historic claims to Jerusalem. To be sure, Israel is not blameless in the poisoned relations, but there are two main reasons why Palestinians don't have a state: Arafat and Abbas. Everything else is detail. It's important to note that the PA may slowly, or shwaya, as they say in Arabic, be seeing the light. It is a very hard lesson, but we are starting to get the impression that the Palestinians may just want to start acting more maturely. Let's hope. Coming up next, commentary through cartoons, where pictures tell the story. This has been a very difficult period to find cartoons. As in the past, the difficulty comes from the news cycle. Whatever dominates the news cycle is what the cartoonists draw about. And Trump is just so much easier to draw than anything and anyone else. Nonetheless, I found two cartoons, or pictoons, better yet, two memes that work for us. Remember, a pictoon is a picture with a caption, and that's been made to lampoon something or some idea. A meme is a humorous image or video or text that has been varied slightly and then spreads quickly through the internet. Memes or pictoons and pictoons, they are both very funny and deal with politics. They both come from Powerline blog. This one is brilliant. It is a snapshot of the actor Wallace Shawn from the 1983 classic movie Princess Bride. Princess Bride was produced by Rob Reiner and is a classic and arguably one of the top 20 best movies ever made. It even breaks into the top 10 for some lists. Wallace Shawn plays Vicini. He's the mastermind behind the kidnapping of Princess Buttercup. And he is in a duel of wits with Pirate Dread Roberts, a.k.a. Wesley. Each character is holding a goblet, and one of those goblets has been poisoned. The most common expression Vicini uses in the film is inconceivable, so much so that Mandy Patinkin says at one point, "I do not think it means what you think it means." It is appropriate for us because it shows just how crazy some of our events are now, and even our history has become. Next up is a simple picture of a dog. Pet pictures and pet videos actually dominate the internet, especially YouTube. You would be shocked to know that pet videos are even more popular than pop rock stars on YouTube and in video. This one makes fun of the drinking age. The dog comes to the counter with a 6-pack of Miller Lite and shows a picture ID, a piece of paper with his picture and the words "I am 21" scribbled in crayon. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. Let's start with some more about Iran, where we already know Iran's move to increase enrichment of their uranium has upset the countries who signed on to the now infamous deal with Iran. It appears that the deal has no teeth, that there is no way to force Iran to comply with the deal itself. The important issue we need to deal with now is that this deal leaves Israel in a very precarious situation. Israel is in the situation. The question arises, how will Israel respond to the new threats? It should be perfectly clear that, to everyone, that this assertive move by Iran is first and foremost a direct threat against Israel, and then a threat to the rest of the Western world. But location is everything, and Israel is in the neighborhood, in the target zone, in the crosshairs of Iran. Israel has a history of interceding when it perceives threats to be developing, especially nuclear threats. In 1981, Israel attacked and destroyed the nuclear reactor in Iraq. In 2007, Israel attacked and destroyed the nuclear center in Syria. If Iran pushes too hard, Israel may very likely strike Iran's nuclear system. Have you ever wondered why so many generals are vying for political leadership in Israel? Not just now, but over history. One former general come present contender was the most decorated Israeli general ever. Another was the head of the Mossad. Another, the head of the internal security, the Shin Bet. Another was the chief of staff. And then there was another who was the chief of staff, and another. Ostensibly, the argument that these former generals want to protect Israel and that they disagree with the Prime Minister Netanyahu's point of view on safety and security is not necessarily true. The truth is that these generals want to trade in their name recognition for political power and ultimate power. They want to be Prime Minister. They disagree with Netanyahu about the two-state solution or about how harsh to be with Iran. But on most of these topics, they're on the same pages, just with a nuanced difference. They all worked for Bibi, and now they want to oust him. They think that their IDF experience will win over Israeli masses and lure them away from the leader they perceive to be a demagogue and a danger to Israel. They want to save Israel from Bibi Netanyahu, and each of these generals wants to be the person who replaces him. Jennifer Lopez, or J-Lo, to her fans, scheduled a performance in Tel Aviv. The Tel Aviv concert is totally sold out. It's part of the 30-concert tour entitled It's My Party. The tour began in Las Vegas. Accompanying Lopez will be her fiancé, New York Yankee legend Alex Rodriguez, a.k.a. A-Rod. BDS supporters are livid and applying tremendous pressure. Their goal is to prevent the concert by forcing J-Lo to cancel. In the letter, BDS supporters wrote, "Boycott, supporting the Palestinian BDS called from within." The letter described the Israeli government's policy of oppression, I'm quoting here, apartheid and ethnic cleansing against the indigenous Palestinian people. To understand why we are writing you, we would like to start off by saying that, much like Sun City in South Africa under the apartheid regime, the city of Tel Aviv, where you are about to perform, is used as a tool for marketing the state of Israel as a cool and cultured democracy while hiding a brutal history of colonization, even that of the city itself. A-Rod's response to the letter was saying in an interview, quote, "I'm going to Israel, so I'm so excited. It's my first time." And I must say, if they do not succumb, J-Lo and A-Rod will witness with their own eyes the wonders of Israel. They will understand the lies BDS is spreading. And this concert and their trip will be an inspiration for those who are curious about Israel and for the many lovers of Israel constantly libeled by BDS canards. This is part 2 of a story that I spoke about before. Former Miss Iraq, Sarah Idan, and former Miss Israel, Adar Gandelsman, are friends. Their relationship began in 2017 at the Miss Universe competition. Miss Idan posted a picture of herself with Miss Gandelsman and wrote, "Peace and love from Miss Iraq and Miss Israel." The other day, Miss Idan was at the United Nations Human Rights Commission speaking about anti-Semitism in the Arab world and about the hatred towards Israel that is taught in the Arab world. In 2018, Sarah Idan visited Israel. While in Israel, Idan said, "The issue between Arabs and Israelis goes beyond policy disagreements. It's deeply rooted in the belief systems taught in Muslim countries, which are anti-Semitic." The other day at the UN, she said, "2 years ago, I represented Iraq at Miss Universe. I posted a photo with Miss Israel on social media. I was told to remove it and forced to denounce Israeli policies. I received death threats. Since then, I can no longer return to my homeland," she further recalled in Geneva. While in Geneva, home to the United Nations Human Rights Commission, Idan made a point of mentioning that the Iraqi government did not condemn the threats, nor did they protect her freedom of expression. She also spoke out denouncing Hamas. When I watched the news last month, why did they never report that Hamas terrorist organizations fired nearly 700 rockets at Israeli civilians in one weekend? Or that Hamas used Palestinians in Gaza as human shields? Why did they never condemn Hamas for initiating the attacks? Instead, they only show those killed by the response in self-defense and blame Israel. Idan concluded her remarks by saying, "For advocating peace, I'm called a traitor. Negotiating peace for both states isn't betraying the Arab cause, but a vital step to end conflict and suffering for all. Thank you." Thank you, Sarah Idan. The world needs more spokespeople with your courage and commitment to righting wrongs. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquante piece of information. Did you know that Rob Reiner, who was the character called Meatball in Archie Bunker's TV son-in-law in All in the Family, was the son of Carl Reiner, the famous actor, writer, producer, and one of the greatest comedians of our time? Carl Reiner actually transformed comedy as part of the writing team for the live weekly Sid Caesar show. Rob Reiner, his son, is a prolific movie producer. In addition to Princess Bride, he produced Stand By Me, another top 20 movie. Back to Princess Bride. The movie was filmed in England and Ireland. Rob Reiner rented a castle nearby the filming site and invited the cast for frequent dinners so that they would get along. For the movie, Carrie Elwes and Mandy Patinkin learned to fence both lefty and righty and spent almost all their free time between scenes practicing. Only the somersaults were done by stunt doubles. All the fencing was done by them. Andre the Giant had back surgery just before the filming and could not lift Carrie. A double did the lifting. Princess Bride is one of the top 10 or 20 best movies for many people. It's number one for me. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double high or more. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, P.O. Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.